Hello traders, Douglas here. Today we've got Intro to Bookmap 2022 edition, and this is a very special Intro to Bookmap edition. There will be no annoying music in the background, my number one complaint on my last Intro to Bookmap video. We've got a lot to cover here. We're going to go over it as quickly as possible, but there is a lot to cover. Okay, we're not going to deep dive anything. I'm just going to hit all the main points that I can, and stick around because we're also going to go over Bookmap's most important indicator towards the end of the video. All right, let's dive right in. We've double clicked the Bookmap icon. You can see that guy right there, and it pulls up the run options. All right, so simulation mode. Simulation mode, you guys are all familiar with trading on sim. If you trade through simulation mode, the trades won't count. All right, it's practice, right? And then down below there, you see load previously open workspace. I'll get into workspaces a little bit later. We got record live data, so you can record the day. You can play it back later. You can practice, all right? You can place orders and things on replay mode. Okay, very important to record your live data, replay it, review it. Trading mode, same thing as simulation mode, except your trades are live, all right? Don't click on any of your trades if you're live and you're not ready. But if you are ready, click away, make some money, all right? So down here, we've got record live data, of course, but we've also now got record orders. So if you place live orders, you can record those. And when you go to replay mode, it'll show you where you placed those orders. You can see where you moved your stops up and down and all that. So you can go back, review the day, look at your mistakes, look at the trades you missed, and look at what worked. And that is a beautiful thing. Next, we've got replay mode. This is what we're going to be going on today. I'm recording this on a weekend. There is no live data. So I have recorded previous days. We're going to pull up replay mode, and that's what we're going to operate in. So we've got this. If there's any updates, they come up here. We can perform those, but not today. We're not going to perform those. All right, and so since we're in replay mode, it's got to load up here. So you'll see this little bar. It's just loading the file. Over here, it tells you what day it is. So this was recorded on June 6, 2022. Didn't pick this day for any particular reason. It's just what came up. All right, so see this here, ES-NQ SPY. This is my workspace. These are the instruments that I've normally got pulled up when I'm trading. All right, you could have whatever you want up there. You could have oil, you could have gold. And then since this is replay mode, it doesn't give us the options, but if this was live or simulated, it would say save workspace, save it as. So like if you were trading bonds and you wanted to have a special workspace for bonds, you would save it as and type in bonds or whatever. And then you could go up here, click on file, and hit open workspace, and then open what workspace that you wanted. All right, so we're operating in my workspace, which is just simple ES-NQ SPY. All right, so that is simple enough. And if you wanted to change your replay day, it's just open data file, pulls up your feeds where it records all of those. And they're right there. You just pick the day that you want and go back and replay it. It's nice to have a library of this stuff when you're practicing or going over a new strategy, whatever it is. Keep a nice little library of replays. They do take up a lot of data though, so make sure your computer is decent and has some storage. So let's skip ahead in replay mode. Let's do that. And so what I've done here, I'm just scrolling on the mouse, and so it can give you a zoomed in view or a wider view, just like that. You know, if you go over here, you can, same thing, just vertical instead of horizontal. Okay, we all get that. You can see more time or less time. Up here, you can speed up the replay mode. You can keep speeding it up quite a bit. You can slow it down. You can pause it. You can play it. All the good stuff that you would expect from replay. You can even put it in super slow mode. All right, so that's enough going over the replay stuff. Let's get this back to normal. Okay, so let's go over the super basics. Right here, you see green bubbles, you see red bubbles. These can all be changed. You can change the colors to your delight. All right, some of us are colorblind. I actually am colorblind, but I can tell the difference between these greens and reds, even though I am red-green colorblind. But let's say I wanted to change this to blue to make it easier to see. You can change it to blue. You can change this over here to blue. You know, whatever you want. And then, so these are the deltas of the market or what we sometimes call aggressive buy and sell orders. All right, so if you see a green bubble, that means in this little section there were more market buys than market sells. The bigger the bubble, the more activity, the more contracts that were traded. So little bubbles is less contracts, big bubbles are bigger contracts. Very easy to distinguish, okay? The reds, of course, are the sells of all of that. You know that. Like, here's a big green bubble, so there was a lot more contracts traded right here than this little red guy. Easy enough. You also have these highlighted areas. Now, these can be changed too up here if you want different colors. Oh no, black and white. All right, so you can change the different colors, whatever your heart's delight is there. But we just do this on the default. And so this is showing you liquidity in the book. These are the passive orders. These are the limit orders. These are people that are waiting in the book to be filled. Okay, so these black areas does not mean that there's no orders there. It just means relatively to the highlighted areas, there are less orders. So the darker black areas are, you know, less orders in the book. Highlighted areas, more orders in the book. So let's take this long highlighted area right here. We can go over here. We can see there's 248 orders there. In this black zone, there's 44, 45, 80. Hopefully that's easy enough. You get the point. Okay. Now, the other important thing is you see how like this red line goes all the way back here, and that's the deepest, darkest red. Well, that's 388. That's the most orders in the book that we're looking at right now. Okay. Now, the reason why this line is super long, and let's say this line right here came in and disappeared, well, it's showing you the history of what's happened over time. So this guy has been waiting in the book with pretty much the same amount of orders. If you had changed his orders back and forth, you'd see different colors of highlight. Like up here, it's like highlighted and then it's a little lesser blue and then it gets a little more highlighted. So somebody's moving orders in and out up there. Okay. Now right here, this has been solid all the way across. So this person has been waiting in the book with pretty much the same amount of orders since at least, you know, 7:15 a.m. Central, probably well before that. I don't know because I wasn't recording before that. So like down here, you can see, boom, this guy gets in and keeps the same amount of orders pretty much all the way across. All right, so you get what that means, I hope. All right, so that's the basics. Over here, of course, is just the numbers of orders. So that's just a different way to read the book. Now let's go over to our basic settings. All right, these are our basic settings of what Bookmap offers. Now I have a Global Plus edition. All right, Global Plus has some different options than regular Global. For instance, I can place trades through Bookmap Live. All right, so over here you see this little number sign that comes up. That's just the arrow, and now there's a number. Okay, that's telling me in this section, if I click the mouse, I'm going to be placing orders. Okay, but I have Global Plus. Some of you don't, you won't be able to do that. And while we're on that tangent, this little lock button, this brings up my trading window over here. You know, it's got a little safety so we can turn on that. You can pin it so that way your settings don't change. And, you know, you can add in a size. Let's do one contract. These are brackets, so this will add in your stops and targets automatically right here. That just makes things super easy. And then you've got all the standard buttons that you expect. You can market buy, market sell, and you'll have your account values. You'll have your profit and loss. You guys know what this kind of stuff is. All right, this is nothing crazy. It's all the basics that you need. And again, so you can place it manually here, or you can go in and click on the chart. You can drag, you can do all that kind of stuff. If you're familiar with NinjaTrader, where, you know, the little order bar comes up and you can drag that back and forth, same thing. All right, it's quite simple and easy to use. All right, back to our settings that we try to get on. Up here, we've got candlesticks. So Bookmap, you know, is kind of famous for these bubbles, but if you're tied into candlesticks, you can add them. You can make them thicker, you can make them thinner. So that way it doesn't take up as much of your viewing space. You can change the intervals. Right now they're at 1 minute candles. You can go down to 5 seconds. You can go up to 4 hours. All right. Now you've got a few different options in here. You can display like VWAPs within the candle. Don't really know why you'd want to do that. Don't know anybody that does use that, but it's there. Okay, and same thing here. This is just different little ways to display the candle. I don't mess with any of this stuff, so I'm not even going to explain it. So let's turn off candlesticks. Let's go to cumulative volume delta, the CVD. You guys know what that is. So let's add the CVD in here. Let's take off our icebergs and stops for a minute. Oops. take off our icebergs and stop. So that's the CVD line. You guys know what cumulative volume delta is. Hopefully, if you don't, you are a very beginner and you need to go find out what cumulative volume delta is. All right, so it's just the difference between the aggressive or market buys and sellers. If there's more market buyers, this goes up. If there's more market sellers, this goes down. Okay, for every buyer, there is a seller that happens in the market, but one of those buyers is going to be a market and the other one's going to be a limit. Okay. So this is just market buys and sellers. Cumulative volume delta. Let's get rid of that. Oh, well, you can go in and do, of course, the different colors. Like you can, customize pretty much everything the way you want. You could also change the way the delta reads. So if we wanted to only count, trades of a certain size, we could do that. Like let's say trades of a minimum size of 20 contracts. Okay, you can do that in there. You can also eliminate trades of a certain size. So if we only wanted, from 1 to 5, we want to see those small values in there. You can do that. Okay, cumulative volume delta, easy enough. We'll cover heat map last. Large lot tracker. You put that on here. It'll put these little white dots over here. I don't know how well you can see it. Here you go, white dashes. So this is kind of cool. You can change the different values for how sensitive it is to detect, but what this is telling you is this is a single lot, right? So this person that's got, let's see, how many they got in here? I can't even zoom in enough for that. All right, so it's about 80 contracts total, and with this white dash all the way over, that meant the vast majority of those were one block of trade. So one trader had the majority of those, all right? And then some of these spaces you see no white lines. That means, maybe somebody's put in a bunch of individual orders. It could be one person in all of those. But, this is just an easy way to see if somebody has a very large lot in there. Like up here, you've got these big numbers and there's some large lots. So determine that the way it is for you, if that applies to your trading or not. You can apply alerts. So that'll tell you if a large trade, a trade of a certain size comes in. It'll give you a little voice alert. That's kind of cool. Order book and balance. It goes up here. I don't mess with this. I don't even want to go into it. It's kind of arbitrary because it depends on like how zoomed and zoomed in and zoomed out. I don't really know how you would use this to your advantage. I think some people might, but I would skip it. Strength level also skip. This is something that probably should honestly be removed from Bookmap. This was an original attempt some years ago to detect hidden orders, like iceberg orders mainly, and maybe stops. It doesn't really work. I don't think it's ever worked to the point where anybody could use it for any advantage. And again, like I said, I think this should be removed. Don't use it. VWAP. Everybody should know what a VWAP is. Volume weighted average price. Okay, now when you turn on the VWAP, it's only going to measure from the time you've turned on Bookmap. Okay, so there is a little limitation to that. If you want VWAP at a certain time, it's only going to work to the point that you've turned it on. However, if you've turned it on early enough, then you can change. Like if I wanted to change the VWAP, let's say I started at 7 a.m. Central. Turned on Bookmap at 7 a.m. Central, but I only want the VWAP to start reading from the open, 8:30 Central, okay? 8:30 Central. So I could set this to 8:30, apply it, and then the VWAP would only measure out from that certain time. So that's useful. I do use that sometimes. Let's go to volume bars. Volume bars, pretty standard. Everybody knows what volume bars are. So it's just telling you how much volume happened in this certain period of time, because you can set the time. Let's see here. Right now I've got it on delta. You can do total volume. You could do volume delta. You can make it solid. You can put in a gradient in there right now. So clustering. All right. So see, right now it's just doing it kind of based on how zoomed in or zoomed out you are. But you could do smart clustering, which is its own sort of little algorithm, how to cluster those together. You can do time. So now the bars are only appearing every 5 minutes. So that's the amount of volume that happened in 5 minutes, 4 hours, 1 hour, down to 5 seconds, all these little bars, 5-second bars. If I wanted to zoom in, get all these little volume 5-second bars. Okay, I think you get that. Let's get out of that. That's what those do. Volume imbalance. Volume imbalance is basically like order book imbalance. It comes up here, tells you kind of the difference between the volume that's happening in the book. But again, it depends on like how zoomed or zoomed out you are. So I don't know what information you can glean from that. If it depends on how, what your chart is how big your chart or small your chart is. So again, maybe somebody uses that to their advantage. I don't know. I don't think it's useful. So volume imbalance, I leave off. So let's go back to heat map. Well, volume dots before heat map. Okay. So we talked about volume dots a little bit at the beginning. You can change it to 2D if you want some ugly dots. 3D if you want some cooler dots. You can do volume delta. You can do non-volume delta, which gives you these little pie charts. Much harder to read in my opinion. I love the fact that they've got the volume delta on that. You can change the size of the dots. So if I did that, you'd see all the dots get bigger. You'd see them get smaller. So it depends on your preference of how you want to read that. You can change the transparency if you don't want them to show up very much, or if you want them to show up a lot. Yeah, transparency doesn't seem to be working very well on my chart for some reason. That doesn't seem to be changing anything. Normally it does. I don't know what the bug is there. Normally it'll change the transparency of those dots. Clustering, the same thing as the volume bars. No clustering, you can see. It gets a little messy. You can change it by time. You could have dots just come up by every minute. Okay, so this is the volume delta that happened within every minute. And of course, all those different times that you can change it to. You can change it by volume if you wanted to only come up every time that, 50 contracts got traded, or 100 contracts, or 1,000 contracts, or whatever. Let's see, you can do it by price, so it's aggregating by the price levels. I usually just leave it on smart, so that's what we're leaving on there, and that's its own little algorithm for how it clusters them together. It adjusts to the zoom in and zoom out, which in this situation I think is actually a good thing. Down here, minimum displayed volume. So we've kind of covered what this does before. Like let's go to minimum trade size. That's a cool one. So if I do, let's say 100 and apply that, then it'll only bring up a dot when a minimum trade size of 100 contracts was transacted, which you see has not happened yet. Okay. Let's do it to 25. Okay. So those are the times when 25 contracts got hit in the market at once. All right. So that's kind of cool. I do set that at 100 sometimes when I'm just looking for big activity. So that's what you might use that for. So let's knock that back out to regular and close it up. Okay, so we covered that pretty quick, I think. That was all the basic kind of in the box settings of Bookmap, depending on whether you got global or global plus. At this point, I don't know exactly which ones come with which anymore because I've had global plus for so long. Let's go to settings. I'll just cover this real quick. Like I told you, you can pretty much adjust the color of everything. So that's up there. You can change different things that you see on the chart. And I'm not going to go into all this stuff, but it's just more things that you can adjust that you'll see on your chart. Let's go to this because this is important. These are your add-ons. So these are your indicators. If you want to do some automated order stuff, which I've never messed with, so I can't help you with, these three are kind of examples that just are default that come with Bookmap. These are all indicators, and we're going to cover a couple of these today, okay? I'll briefly touch on, since we're on replay, we can't see it, hero indicator. Now these are additional, hero and the stops and icebergs, and then the sweeps. These are the ones I'm going to cover today, okay? This is a third-party stuff, so I'm not going to cover that. Hero indicator will show you a line on the chart of real-time options activity, okay? And it's their own algorithm of kind of how they display the line, but they're trying to show you the impact of options, right? So if their algorithm tells you that a number of call options are coming in that are impacting the market, in theory, then the line will be going up, and then vice versa. If they're selling calls or whatever, the line will be going down, and then of course puts and all that plays into it. Okay, and so that can be occasionally a front-running indicator if there's enough options activity. So let's pretend the CVD line was options. If it comes up here and the value, you can see the total value right here says 2,500. We'll just pretend that there was 2,500 you see this number on the hero options because that's a good number. That's not very many options. There probably wouldn't be much market impact. The idea is that market makers have to adjust their risk. So they're the ones providing the option contracts to the retailers like us. So if we buy a call, then they have to adjust their risk because they're selling you that call. Okay, so they might do that in the market. So it's going to impact the market, right? Well, that's the only place they can do it is in the market, but they might not necessarily do it in the futures. That's just what we assume they're going to do is in the US futures if it's a SPY contract, let's say. All right, so 2,500 is not much. It might not move the market, but if it shoots up to like 50,000 or 100,000, usually that has a pretty big impact on the market. And a lot of times it can show you where the market's about to turn. You know, the market's going up, 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 and then all of a sudden options are dropping down, 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 and they've dropped 25, 50,000. Well, you might want to pay attention because somebody in the know is making some major activity, okay? So that wasn't the smartest explanation of all that, but that's all you really need to know. That's the gist of it, okay? Now let's go to sweeps indicator. This one, I think this one's still free. The sweeps indicator. Now there's another one, very similar one called the absorption indicator. All right, so this is trying to detect where sweeps happen in the market. So a sweep is when a number of price levels get taken out in a certain period of time, okay? And sort of the theory behind that is price levels are getting taken out possibly by algorithms or big boys. Like a retailer wouldn't really have the power to do that. So you can determine whether or not that plays into your strategy, but you can set different modes. Like automatic mode will detect, let's say, there's not very many sweeps going on. Well, if you set the automatic mode, then it'll detect like, well, there's not very many sweeps. So a smaller sweep will appear than more often than normal. Now, if there's a whole lot of activity and there's a whole lot of big sweeps happening, then the automatic mode will know that and it'll show you less of those because it's going to adjust and say, okay, all these sweeps of 500 are happening or 1,000 are happening. So now I'm going to only show you the sweeps that happen of 2,000. Something like that, okay? That just helps you read it. You can take it off automatic mode, set it to something specific. Only sweeps of, only sweeps of 1,000, all right? Oh no, no sweeps of 1,000. Sweeps of 100, okay, there we go. And these are aggregated, so like you saw that there's 1,250 right here, and you said, well, your sweeps of 1,000 and show that, well, that's because it's aggregated. So you zoom in, and you say, oh, that's really a 723 sweep and a 527 sweep. Okay, so that's the sweeps indicator. In this video, we're not covering how to play these kind of things. We're just showing you that they exist. So let's get the sweeps indicator off. We've done the sweeps. We've done the hero. Let's do the big daddy of all of their indicators, the subchart, stops, and icebergs from the MBO bundle. There is also an on the chart, so it'll show you the same information. It'll just show you it like actually on the chart and say this is where that stop exactly happened and this is how many. All right, so let's go down to our settings down here. This is your subgraph, okay? And your subgraph, there's a lot of indicators that end up down here. You know the CVD ends up down here. So there's different options, like I can take the line off the chart. You can see this total CVD. I can take that off the chart. All right, so let's take both of those off because we're not using the CVD right now. We got the stops and icebergs. Let's put those lines on the chart. Default, the red is the stops, the blue are the icebergs. Now this is from the MBO data. You have to have rhythmic data feed for this. It's the only feed that shows you MBO. That's market by order. Now what that's telling you is it's identifying if somebody places a stop order, it's going to identify that that is actually a stop order that happened, okay? Or if it's a hidden order, it's going to identify that this was actually a hidden iceberg order that happened. You can't see them until they happen, okay? Until they've been executed. Now, there's no point of having hidden orders if you could see them in advance. All right, so unfortunately, we can't do that. That'd be a wonderful thing if we could. Let's get these graphs out here so you can see the different numbers. So here's an easy spot to read, right? We're coming here, it's flat, and of course it's the open. There's a lot of activity at the open. Boom, we got stops and we've got icebergs, okay? So that happened right there. Right here, you just see some stops got run, and then we've got stops and icebergs happening. There's different settings on that. The main thing is, the first thing you want to do if you're using the MBO bundle is come down here it's going to probably come on default a line. The problem with that is usually icebergs are a lot bigger than stops, and it'll make these stops real small and hard to read. You want them set on their own individual scale. And so symmetric iceberg, symmetric stops is what you want. So that way you can see both of them at the same time. All right. And this does adjust. So right now you've got 1,000 right here, and that's what's showing. If let's say an iceberg came in that was 3,000. All right. So it's going to show you relative to that. So all these other icebergs would look a lot smaller because it wants to be able to fit them within the space provided. You can give yourself all the space that you want. Again, Bookmap can pretty much do whatever you need it to do. So let's go in here. There's some different settings. Sliding, this is kind of the default setting on 1 minute. That's good enough, but if you want a little more pinpoint look to it, you can put it on reset, and that resets it every 1 minute. You could change that down to 10 seconds, so it's just reading within 10 seconds the amount of stops that happened, okay? And now it's reading the amount of stops that happened within 1 minute, and then it resets and then does another minute, okay? So that's what that is. You could do the cumulative total. That's sliding. So like, that's sum. So sum does the cumulative. So like cumulative volume delta, same thing. It's just adding them. This is the total throughout the day, all right, of the stops and the icebergs. Those are really the only settings that you need to know. You can come down here. You can filter. So if you want to see only stops and icebergs that happen of certain sizes, that's actually pretty useful. Down here you can trigger, these are alerts. You can get voice alerts, you can get text alerts. That's pretty nice. And that's pretty much it, man. We got through this video pretty quick. Those are all the basics, all right? That should get you starting with some basic knowledge of Bookmap. Now, if you have any questions, let me know. If you have technical questions, send those to Bookmap, all right? If your program's not working, if you don't see like the dots coming up for some reason, if you can't get it to open, I can't help you with that. I can't help you with that. All right. Go to the technical support. But if you have options of like, what indicator should I use? What are your settings? These kind of questions that I could actually answer, by all means, leave them in the comment section. I'm pretty responsive with most things. I like helping people out. And I'm also going to leave a link for Bookmap itself if you don't have it yet. If you've been on the fence, I highly recommend it. As you can see, let's say we've got this higher area of liquidity here. It came, it got rejected at that. It came, it got rejected at this higher area of liquidity, and that came and it broke through. Okay, these are important things to know, right? If you're on just a candlestick chart on NinjaTrader, let's say, you would have never known that this is potential area of support and resistance, all right? I mean, based on candlesticks, you can figure out some of those things, but this is like confirmation. Hey, there's actually traders waiting here. There's actually support waiting here. There's actually resistance waiting here. There's actually sells that happened here more than buys. All right. Those are the cool things about Bookmap. Again, if you need Bookmap, follow the link. It should get at least a small discount on it. And that's it, boys. Peace out.